Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to jump into something kind of crazy. Today we're going to be looking at the future of education,
It's
and
pretty wild stuff.
yeah, it's a wild one, the source material. So today we're exploring a fundraising campaign.
On GoFundMe.
Yeah, on GoFundMe by a group called Aim West Books, and they're trying to get their publication, Reimagining Education, Navigating AI and Policy Shifts in a Post-DOGE Era off the ground.
And, the premise of this book is pretty out there. AIM West is asking us to imagine a world
Okay.
where the U.S. Department of Education is just gone.
Like completely gone.
Gone, poof, vanished.
Wow.
Replaced by this thing called the Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh, DOGE.
Doge, yeah.
Like the meme.
Like the meme, yeah.
Seriously.
I know, right? But putting the humor aside for a second, AIM West is using this almost sci-fi scenario to explore what would happen if education was mainly controlled at the state and local levels.
So no more like big federal decisions about what kids are learning. Each state would be like calling the shots. I can already see how that could be both really exciting and also a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You could have so much more freedom to tailor education to the specific needs of each community.
Right.
But then there's the flip side. You have to think about, potential disparities in resources and approaches across different states.
That's a huge question. Yeah. Like, would a kid in rural Montana get the same opportunities as a kid in New York City?
Right.
That seems like something AIM West would have to address in this book.
They do a major part of their book is exploring how AI could kind of be the great equalizer in this decentralized system.
Okay, so we're not just talking about like robots in the classroom, right?
No. This is way beyond that.
Okay.
They're talking about using AI to personalize learning.
On a level we've never seen.
Yeah.
So give me an example. What does AI-powered learning actually look like?
Okay, so imagine AI tutors that can analyze a student's learning style, their strengths, weaknesses, and then create a completely customized learning plan just for them. So let's say you're a visual learner who struggles with math concepts.
Yeah.
Your AI tutor would figure that out and adjust your lessons accordingly.
Wow, that's way beyond those like basic math apps we have now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like having a personal teacher who knows exactly how your brain works.
Exactly. And AIM West argues that this kind of hyper-personalization could be a game changer, especially for students who have, traditionally struggled in a one-size-fits-all classroom setting.
Yeah, I can see that. No more like getting bored because the material is too easy or feeling lost because you're not catching on as quickly as everyone else.
Precisely.
Everyone's on their own track.
And, this personalized approach isn't just limited to students. AIM West also talks about AI-powered tools that could totally revolutionize the way teachers teach.
Okay.
Imagine having an AI assistant that could grade essays,
Oh, wait, wow.
provide feedback on lesson plans, even generate customized learning materials for each student.
That would free up so much time for teachers to actually connect with their students and do what they do best, right?
Absolutely. AIM West's vision isn't about replacing teachers with robots.
Right.
It's about using AI to empower teachers and create a richer, more engaging learning environment for everyone.
Okay, I'm definitely getting more on board with this AI idea, but let's be real. Wouldn't developing and implementing all this technology be incredibly expensive?
I mean,
Would only elite schools with huge budgets be able to afford it?
that's a legitimate concern, and AIM West doesn't shy away from it.
Okay.
They argue that strategic investment and careful planning are essential to ensure that AI benefits all students.
Not just the wealthy ones.
Exactly.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem, but making sure those resources are used effectively and equitably.
Exactly. It's about bridging the digital divide so that all students have access to the same transformative learning opportunities, regardless of their background or zip code.
Now, I know AIM West is really focusing on this idea of AI in a decentralized system.
Right.
But even if we put the AI aspect aside for a moment, there are still some big questions about what a post-DOGE world would actually look like.
Right. And AIM West lays out some pretty compelling arguments for and against eliminating the Department of Education completely.
Okay.
They're not afraid to dive into the potential downsides of such a radical shift.
Let's get into that then. What are some of the potential risks they highlight?
One of the biggest concerns is, the potential for increased inequality between states and school districts.
Okay.
If funding and resources aren't distributed fairly, there's a real risk that students in less affluent areas could be left behind.
That's a huge issue. Yeah, we can't just dismantle the current system without considering the potential consequences for those who are already the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. And it's not just about funding either. There's also the question of curriculum standards.
Right. If each state is setting its own educational goals,
Exactly.
how do we ensure that students are receiving a comparable education across the board?
Right. Would a high school diploma in one state hold the same weight as a diploma from another state?
That's a really good point. It could create this confusing patchwork of different standards and expectations.
Exactly, and that's something AIM West really grapples with in their book.
Okay.
They argue that we need to find a way to balance local control with national standards.
It's a tough needle to thread.
It is.
So it's not as simple as just saying, let the states decide.
Right.
There needs to be some kind of framework in place to ensure quality and consistency.
And then there's also the issue of federal oversight.
Yeah.
If we eliminate the Department of Education, who's going to hold states accountable for providing a quality education to all students?
Would we be relying solely on state-level oversight?
Potentially.
That seems like it could open the door to potential problems.
Exactly, and that's another point. AIM West stresses the need for careful consideration of the potential consequences of eliminating federal oversight.
Okay.
They're not advocating for like a reckless dismantling of the system, but rather for a thoughtful and nuanced approach to decentralization.
It sounds like they're pushing for a balanced perspective, recognizing both the potential benefits and the potential pitfalls of such a dramatic change.
Absolutely, they're not providing easy answers, but rather encouraging a thoughtful discussion about how we can best structure and govern education to meet the needs of all students in the 21st century.
This has already given me so much to think about, and we haven't even gotten to the specifics of their fundraising campaign yet.
That's right. We'll dive into that right after this.
Okay, I'm still processing all the implications of a post-DOGE world, but I'm really intrigued by how AIM West sees AI fitting into all of this. They're not just talking about replacing textbooks with tablets, right?
Oh, definitely not. They go way beyond the typical tech in the classroom ideas. One of the things that really jumped out at me was their discussion of AI-powered virtual labs and simulations.
Oh, like those VR things you see at tech conferences?
Yeah,
Fun for like a demo, but do they really work for actual learning?
that's where AI comes in. AIM West envisions AI, creating simulations that are not only visually immersive, but also adapt to each student's learning pace and style. So imagine a biology student being able to dissect a virtual frog, making mistakes and learning from them without actually harming any animals.
Okay, that's pretty cool, but couldn't you just like watch a video for that?
Right.
What makes the AI simulation different?
It's the interactivity and the personalization. The AI can actually adjust the complexity of the simulation based on how the student is doing. So if they're struggling with a certain concept, the AI can provide additional guidance or even break down the process into smaller steps.
So it's like having a virtual lab partner who's also an expert in the subject.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
And this type of AI-powered learning isn't limited to just Science AIM West. Talks about creating virtual historical simulations
Oh, wow.
where students could experience events like the signing of the Declaration of Independence or walk through ancient Rome.
Wow, talk about bringing history to life. Instead of just reading about it in a textbook, you could actually feel like you're there.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. AIM West also discusses how AI could be used to personalize career counseling, helping students identify their strengths and interests, and then connect them with potential career paths that align with those skills.
Okay, that would have been a game changer for me back in high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. It was all just random guesses and following what my friends were doing.
Exactly. Instead of leaving students to figure out on their own, AI could provide them with data-driven insights and personalized guidance to help them make more informed decisions about their future.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I have to admit, part of me is still a little hesitant about relying so heavily on technology for education. What about the human element, the things that AI can't replicate?
Yeah, that's a crucial point, and AIM West is very clear that AI should be a tool to enhance human capabilities, not replace them.
Okay.
They believe that teachers will always play a vital role in education, providing mentorship, fostering critical thinking, and nurturing those essential social-emotional skills that are so crucial for success in life.
So it's not about AI taking over the classroom, but rather about finding the right balance between leveraging technology and preserving the human connection that's at the heart of education.
Precisely. It's about using AI to create a more engaging, personalized, and effective learning experience while still recognizing the irreplaceable value of human interaction and guidance.
This is making me think about the bigger picture of what education could look like in the future. What kind of vision does AIM West paint in their book?
They envision a future where learning is personalized, flexible, and accessible to all. A future where students are empowered to learn at their own pace and in ways that best suit their individual needs and learning styles.
That sounds amazing, but is it really realistic? I mean, how do we actually get from where we are now to that kind of future?
It's definitely a big challenge, but AIM West argues that it's achievable if we're willing to rethink our fundamental assumptions about education.
Okay.
They believe that we need to move away from the traditional model of education being confined to schools and universities and embrace the idea of lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning. So it's not just about getting a degree and then you're done.
Exactly. AIM West envisions a future where people have access to learning opportunities throughout their lives, whether it's through online courses, community programs, or even those AI-powered personalized learning platforms we were talking about earlier.
That makes a lot of sense in today's rapidly changing world. You can't just rely on what you learned in school 20 years ago. You need to constantly be updating your skills and knowledge.
And that's where AI could play such a crucial role. Imagine having access to an AI-powered learning platforms that can recommend courses and resources tailored to your specific career goals or personal interests, no matter what stage of life you're in.
Okay, now that's a future I can get behind, but let's be realistic. But I still huge logistical and financial challenges to overcome, right?
Absolutely. West acknowledges that we need to rethink our funding models for education if learning is going to be a lifelong pursuit. It can't just be funded through traditional means like property taxes or tuition. They suggest exploring alternative funding models like partnerships between businesses, government agencies, and educational institutions.
So it's about creating a more diverse and sustainable ecosystem for education, one that can support individuals throughout their lives.
Precisely, it's a big shift in thinking, but West argues that it's essential if we want to create an education system that's truly equitable, accessible, and responsive to the needs of the 21st century.
All of this is fascinating, but I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. West is proposing a pretty radical shift in power from the federal level to states and local communities. Let's dig a little deeper into the potential downsides of that approach.
Okay, sure. One of the major concerns, as we discussed, is the potential for increased inequality if we eliminate the Department of Education and shift funding and control to the state level. How do we ensure that all students, regardless of where they live, have access to a quality education?
Right. It seems like there would need to be some kind of mechanism in place to prevent states from cutting corners or shortchanging certain communities.
Exactly. West emphasizes the need for strong safeguards to prevent states from using decentralization as an excuse to reduce funding for education or to discriminate against certain groups of students. They argue that any move towards decentralization must prioritize equity and access above all else.
So it's not just about giving states more control, it's about giving them more control responsibly. Are there any other potential downsides they highlight?
Another concern they raise is the potential for a loss of national standards and cohesion. If each state is setting its own curriculum and assessment standards, there's a risk that students in different states could be learning vastly different things.
That could create some major headaches down the line when it comes to things like college admissions or even just moving from one state to another. Would a high school diploma from one state be recognized in another state?
Exactly. West acknowledges that a completely fragmented system could create a lot of confusion and inconsistency. They suggest exploring ways to maintain some level of national cohesion, perhaps through voluntary agreements between states or the development of common core standards that states can choose to adopt.
So it's about finding a balance between local control and national unity. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Absolutely. And that's why West is advocating for a thoughtful and nuanced approach to decentralization, one that carefully considers both the potential benefits and the potential risks.
It's a lot to digest, but I have to say I'm really impressed by West's willingness to engage with the complexities of these issues.
Me too. They're not shying away from the tough questions or pretending that there's a simple solution. They're presenting a balanced perspective and encouraging a thoughtful debate about how we can create an education system that truly serves the needs of all students.
It's clear they're passionate about education and about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Absolutely, and that passion is evident in their commitment to making their book Reimagining Education accessible to as many people as possible.
Speaking of their book, let's talk about their fundraising campaign. I'm curious to learn more about how they're planning to get this book out into the world.
That's a great segue. We'll dive into the specifics of their GoFundMe campaign after a quick.
All right, so we've talked a lot about West's vision for reimagining education, but let's get down to the nuts and bolts here.
Right.
They're a relatively small publishing company.
Yep.
With a pretty big idea. How are they actually going to make this happen?
That's where their GoFundMe campaign comes in. They've laid out a really clear plan for how they'll use the funds to make reimagining education a reality.
And I have to say, their commitment to making the book freely available online is pretty impressive. It seems like a lot of groups talk about democratizing knowledge.
Right.
But West is actually walking the walk here.
They're putting their money where their mouth is, absolutely. They believe that everyone should have access to this information, regardless of their ability to pay. It's a bold move, and it really shows how dedicated they are to their mission.
So let's break it down. Where exactly is the money going?
Okay, so they've been very transparent about their budget breakdown on the GoFundMe page. A big chunk is going towards professional editing and publishing.
That makes sense. A book about the future of education shouldn't be like a dry academic tome that only a handful of people can understand.
Exactly. They want to make sure the book is engaging, accessible, and well-written so that it could reach a wide audience.
Yeah, it sounds like they're really putting a lot of thought into making this like a high-quality publication. What else are they planning to spend the money on?
They're also allocating a significant portion of the funds to digital distribution and website hosting. This will allow them to make the book easily downloadable and shareable online.
Smart move. In today's digital world, you have to meet people where they are. Making the book freely available online will dramatically increase its reach and impact.
Exactly. And finally, they're planning to use some of the funds for outreach and awareness campaigns. They want to get this book in the hands of educators, policymakers, community leaders, anyone who can help shape the future of education.
It sounds like they're not just trying to publish a book, they're trying to spark a national conversation about these important issues.
Absolutely. They want to empower individuals and communities to take ownership of their education systems and create a future where learning is truly personalized, equitable, and accessible to all.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the potential of AI to revolutionize learning, to the challenges and opportunities of decentralization. What are your final thoughts on AIM West's vision for reimagining education?
I'm incredibly impressed by their boldness and their willingness to tackle these complex issues head on. They're not offering any easy answers, but they are asking the right questions and pushing us to think differently about how we approach education.
I agree. They've given us a lot to chew on, and I think their book has the potential to be a real catalyst for change.
Definitely.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? If you found this conversation as thought-provoking as we did, I highly encourage you to check out AIM West's website and consider supporting their GoFundMe campaign.
Yeah, even a small donation can help them bring this important resource to the world, but more importantly, engage with these ideas, discuss them with your friends, family, and colleagues, reach out to your local school board members and policymakers.
The future of education is something we all have a stake in. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix things. We all have a role to play in creating a better future for learning.
AIM West has thrown down the gauntlet. Now it's up to us to pick it up and shape the future of education in our own communities.
And on that note, we'll leave you to your own deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the future of education.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those conversations flowing.